Finance Committee meeting. It's 6:02 p.m. It's Wednesday, February 16th, 2022. I'm Sarah Clendenning, the president of Lincoln Heights Neighborhood Council. I'm the chair of the Planning and Land Use Committee. Benny Medeiros, the vice chair, and then we have 5 other members. Secretary Sanchez, could you please do roll call?
Right, Sarah Clendenning,
Present.
Vincent Montalvo,
Present.
Fernanda Sanchez here, Benny Madera, Nancy Soto,
Here.
Melanie Bolomo Shiflet,
Here.
Richard Ortiz.
Hello, here.
Have quorum.
Yay, excellent. Okay, with that, we're going to start with item number 3, non-agenda public comments. If there's anybody from the public who has a comment or wants to talk about something that's not on the agenda, you have 2 minutes to speak. Please raise your hand or press *9. Vince and Fernanda are our moderators. Vince is the guy behind the controls. So yeah.
So I don't see any public comment.
Okay, so we'll move on to item number 4, community and board announcements, 2 minutes per person. Is there anybody from the community who has an announcement? You have 2 minutes to speak. Press *9 or raise your hand.
Not seeing any.
Okay, do any committee members have any announcements?
I don't.
I don't think so.
I don't see
Well, I
any.
guess I have an announcement. Yeah, if anybody from the public wants to join our committee, we have, I think, up to 5 public seats, right, Vince?
Correct.
Okay, cool. Yeah, so just email us. Any other committee members have announcements?
I don't
No.
see anybody else.
All right, so move on to item number 5, government reports, 2 minutes per person. Are there any government officials? City people?
I don't see any on the public attendee side.
Okay, so we'll move on to item number 6, planning and land use committee. 6A, appointment of Christian Christopher Adams to stakeholder seat on the LHNC PLUC. Vince, can you elevate Christian to the committee from the attendees?
Hello, everybody.
Yo. Okay, so Vince, do we have to make a motion?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, first, we just if the board, I'll do this. Let me make the motion to accept Christopher Adams to the Lincoln Heights PLUC committee. Is there a second?
Second.
Fernanda seconds. Okay, board discussion. If there's any questions you would like to ask him, this would be the time.
Should he introduce himself just for a minute?
Yeah, we can give him
Yeah.
time. Yeah.
Mr. Adams. Hey,
Let me just make sure he has the ability to. Okay.
Hello. Hi, everybody.
Hi.
hey,
Bye.
How's everybody doing today?
good.
So far, so good.
All right. Hump day.
Are you on video? Oh wait, no, nobody's on video, just me. Yeah. Yeah, it was windy and cold. Nice. So so tell us a little bit about yourself. I've heard your voice
Yeah.
on some hearings. I've heard you're pretty active on these planning and land use.
I have been. That's thanks to community outreach. That's probably the only reason why I've actually been attentive to these meetings and these agenda items. Had it not been for community outreach on social media, I would be more or less oblivious to some of the atrocities that are going on in our community. Well, you know, there's a large abuse. There has been for a long time in this community, and I think it's about time that it has a voice of community members that are willing to speak out against these, I guess, manipulations and abuses. You know, I've lived in Lincoln Heights all my life. Went to Griffin Elementary School, and then graduated from Lincoln High School. Most of my family is first moved to Lincoln Heights in 1957. So I've been a family of community activists for a long time, and they've done their part. Now it's time for me to do mine, I think. That's you guys have any questions maybe in particular?
Yeah, and any board member want to ask Adam, Christian, any questions? If there's no questions, we can go straight to public and see if the public has any questions for him, and then we can take a vote.
Yeah, I have a question, Christian. Yeah, you you were in the military, right?
Navy, and I'll be going back this year.
Okay, so go back. Okay. Do you feel like you have an obligation to sort of defend, or like, you know?
I would say there's a responsibility in terms of anybody that has any form of intellect and in general a sense of political acuteness to go ahead and to speak up when they see something that's not right, that they don't believe to be right, they don't believe to be correct, from offices as small as neighborhood council to offices as high as the Oval Office. I think that for many years, I decided not to partake in social media just because I believed it was a toxic environment. But then over the course of the political elections of the past, I decided, and I've meditated on the fact that the outstanding voice is something that I particularly disagreed with. Obviously, when it comes to politics, it's very nuanced, and rightfully so. There needs to be nuances about it. But had I stayed off social media, I came to the conclusion that if I never voiced my opinions, it's like they never existed, and it's like they were never introduced to reality. And I think you need to speak into existence, into matter, ideas that can make a change and make a difference. And that was the main reason why I decided to get on social media again, so that way I can actually voice my opinion, whether it be disagreed upon by the most, but I think it's valid nonetheless. And I don't think that anybody's opinion is inferior or superior to any others. I think it's just a difference of opinion, and obviously some resonate more with others, and some have been, obviously many have been indoctrinated into aspects of society that I don't think are accurate or correct. So, and I'm fortunate enough to have grown up with my uncles who are civil rights activists, and I've been exposed to all kinds of different things that I realize most people have not come into contact with in their life. And I think that because of that experience, I can go ahead and speak to different avenues and different ways of looking at situations that maybe other people that haven't had the same exposure wouldn't be able to. And I think that we all have a right to speak. And I think that when you hear something that sounds right, continue to even question that, even my opinions themselves. I think everybody should continue to question and evolve in their idea of what they think is best. Obviously, there's no right or wrong. There are things that are disagreeable, but I think the constant questioning is how you make improvements. Complacency is the enemy of success, and to have a successful community, we need to constantly be evolving and knowing when to zig and when to zag, when to go ahead and do something, and when to hold back. But that's where my voice comes in, when as a community member. Obviously, in these past meetings, I've spoken up because I have obviously disagreements with some of the propositions that were proposed on some of these agenda items, and some I agreed with. But nonetheless, I think my voice would be something of a different perspective that perhaps this neighborhood council has yet to see.
Yes.
Yeah.
What democracy is.
That's right.
No, exactly. We have
It's a platform
Fernanda.
and people need to take it. People need to speak up. Fernanda?
Yeah, I just wanted to say that I have noticed your attendance in previous neighborhood council meetings for like the past year or so. And I just really wanted to thank you for like your participation and civic engagement. And I'm happy to see that your interest in being further involved is like here. So yeah.
Oh, thank you. That's large part majority to the president here, Sarah, and yourself as well, Fernanda. You guys have obviously been the key people in community outreach, so I commend you guys on your work in the community, and like to see how it progresses with me on the committee as well.
Oh man.
All right.
Thank you.
Any other board member comments for Christian? We're gonna go to the public ones.
I don't see anybody with their hand up.
All right. Does anybody from the public have a question for Christian?
If you have a question, you can use the *9 to raise your hand if you're using the line, or use the little yellow hand icon. I don't see any.
All right, well then with that, I guess we're gonna go for a vote, right, Vince? Although
Correct.
I'm gonna point, but yeah, so we'll just do a little roll call vote here.
Right, Sarah Clendenning,
Aye, yes. Mhm.
Chente,
Yes.
Fernanda, yes, Benny,
Yes.
Nancy,
Yes.
Melanie,
Yes.
and Richard.
Yes.
Simone.
That is unanimous, motion carries, and congratulations, Christopher Adams.
Thank you.
So the obligation, it's one meeting a month usually, and that's about it. Yeah, cool. So we're gonna move on to the next item here. Let's see, B. All right, so we have some presenters. Let's see. Okay, so B, discussion and possible action. Fernanda, do you want to read this?
Item B, discussion and possible action on letter regarding 2417-2455 North Thomas Street and 2428-2436 North Gate Street, former Little Flower property. Case number CPC 2019-49-GPA-BZC. CEQA number environmental 2019-4984-ND. The proposed project is a change of use form from a school, daycare, convent, dormitories, playground, and chapel to storage, office, and motion picture television uses. The request includes a general plan amendment from low residential to neighborhood commercial and a vesting zone change from R1 to 1D and R1-1D HPOZ to C2 1D and C2 1D HPOZ. The proposed project also includes the potential development of an additional 10,000 square feet of office use on portions of project site that are outside the current HPOZ boundaries. Presentation 5 minutes.
All right, so our presenters are Somas and let's see. Let's see who we have here. Attendees. Oh, we have a hand up. Okay, so we have Paul Gary, yeah,
Give me one second. I will move
and
him over.
Tina Cart. Wait. Who's it? I think Tina. So we're gonna do like a, the applicant will do a presentation on just this, this was a project that what the council heard in 2019, but it's changed since then. And so, yeah, there've been some amendments to it, and we have the supporting documents on our website. So the applicants will speak for like, Vince, like 5 minutes, 10 minutes?
We have 5 minutes on it.
Okay.
So is anybody gonna need a screen share, Paul?
Yes, I will, please. I notice mine is disabled at the moment.
Okay, let me get a co-host. Okay, let me unshare. Okay. So I'm putting Sarah, I'm putting the clock for 5 minutes, but as soon as Paul starts, I'll click the time.
Okay.
Not quite ready, available yet.
Okay, I'll just, so everybody knows this is for the previous Little Flower property next to the Carl's Jr. Many of you have gone to nursery school there. Just trying to.
Okay, it's letting me share. So let me. Can you see my screen now?
Yes.
Mhm.
Okay, thank you very much. My name is Paul Gary with SOMAS on behalf of the owner and applicant for this project, which is a adaptive reuse of the Little Flower preschool that closed in 2017. And I want to just refamiliarize everyone with the project, since it has been several years since we were before the planning committee. And so briefly, the site is on the north side of North Broadway between Gate Street and Thomas Street, adjacent to the Lincoln High School and Pueblo High School. It's about a 2.14 acre site. And was a preschool, and our proposed is to change it to office use. As you can see from the photos, the buildings, existing buildings were built from the 1940s to the 1960s. The Carmelite Sisters operated it as a school under a variance that was issued by the city up for many decades up until 2017. You'll see the buildings are kind of a utilitarian style. All of the buildings are planned to be retained as part of this project and reused as office buildings and post-production facilities. And briefly, I wanted to kind of introduce you again to the owner applicant narrator. They're a family-owned production company and creative marketing agency, founded in 2010 by Josh Orrick and Tina Carter. And as their name implies, they focus on storytelling and content across all media. They produce movie trailers, shorts, documentaries, websites, and other social media. And they partner with talent agencies, studios, and production companies for this kind of material. They're currently located in Echo Park, but they found this site and want to move their 40 employees to this site on this campus. That they're writers, painters, sound designers. They're all kind of quiet, working inside studios. So it's a perfect facility for them because classrooms are easily adapted to the kind of spaces they need to use for their company. And the goals of this project and for narrator were to adaptively reuse the former convent and school as their creative campus, working within the rich traditions and character of the Lincoln Heights neighborhood. It's important that they retain the traditions of the Little Flower School. They're retaining all the statuary that the sisters did not take with them. And it'll look very much like it has over the decades. They're also currently restoring a Queen Anne house that came with the purchase on the southwest corner. That that was built in about 1905. So that's in progress and not part of the zone change, but part of their mission to kind of honor the traditions of what's going on there. They're going to be bringing high-paying, skilled jobs in the entertainment industry to the east side, and they'll be partnering with the schools for internships and other, opportunities as they grow their business. Briefly, the timeline, just so you know, it's been a 2.5-year journey for them so far. And importantly, when the school closed in 2017 and the sisters decided to sell the property, they wanted someone who would preserve the site and reuse it. They were getting offers from developers who wanted to tear down the school and re-subdivide it for residential development, since it's an R1 zone. So it could have ended up with multiple single-family homes, or someone could have tried to change the zone and done multifamily zoning, but the sisters didn't want that. And that's where Narrator came in. The property met the sisters' goals and their goals for their business, and they came to agreement. And we embarked on this process to do the zone change to allow the zoning to allow the office and production uses. We went before the neighborhood council in September of 2019, the planning committee and the full board, and got their full approvals, and then continued on with the entitlement process, where we were ready to go to the CPC for a hearing in October of 2020, when the staff report was issued. And at that time, we were not planning for any additional square footage on the property, but it became apparent that the conditions of approval that the planning department were going to impose would not have granted any flexibility for any future improvements to allow for any growth on the campus. So we kind of reconsidered, and to allow for further kind of growth, we added a 10,000 square foot addition to the property, which I'll show you exactly what that looks like in a moment. And then went through more environmental review until the City Planning Commission heard the project on January 27th of this year and gave their full recommendation of approval. So this will then go to the City Council's Planning Land Use Management Committee within the next month or so.
We have a 30 seconds on the clock.
Okay. So let me just go. So this is the existing campus, but just for everyone's benefit, where the proposed buildings would go would be small 1- and 2-story buildings on the north side of the property. But this is also kind of speculative. Yeah, but will also be conditioned that we cannot build any more than that, and we can't build residential, we can't build other commercial uses. So we're going to be strictly limited to the Q conditions and delimitations that only allow the office and production uses, and they could only ever build 10,000 square feet, where the underlying zoning would allow them to build another 100,000 square feet. So the conditions are going to be very strict on what they can do and what will be enforced by the city conditions. So I will leave that there with you in the interest of time, and are available to answer any questions. And the owners are also on the line to answer your questions. Thank you.
Sarah, we can't hear you.
Oh, and if you,
One
There you
second, I can't see the video here, having issues. So thank you for the presentation. So, okay, so this map, Paul,
yes,
so the Queen Anne property, that's a single family home, correct? It's not
that's a single family house. Yes, it was purchased with the rest of the property and is within the HPOZ.
So, yeah, there are different maps. So, like you have the red line around it, and then there are residences around that. Yeah, so that Queen Anne is part of the property. So that single family home would be zoned commercial then?
No, see, the red line is what is part of the rezoning application, since the Queen Anne was not going to be used for commercial use. It's not going to be used by the business. That'll continue to be a residential unit. So we're not asking to change the zoning on that property. That
Yeah.
would stay by itself. So it's not part of the project. It's outside the project boundaries.
Yeah. Was that house used for, like, as part of the convent or something, or were they renting it out for supplemental income? Do you know?
I don't know when it was last occupied. It was pretty run down. But Tina and Josh, they can better answer if they know if it was previously rented out by the sisters when the school was operating.
That's the house that's boarded up, right? It has like windows boarded up.
It may be. They're doing work on it now. The renovation work has started already.
Okay, so I'm looking at the map here. And it's in the HPOZ, correct? Yeah.
Yes. Part of the campus is within the HPOZ and part of it is outside of the HPOZ.
So that house is 2420 Gates. Built 1897. Not rent controlled. Yeah, no RSO, and it's not an LSAC property. Okay. Interesting. Okay. And so that's the only home on the site, correct?
Yes, that's the only residential use, and it's outside of the actual zone change area, the project area.
All right. Just trying to wrap my head around this. Okay, so does anybody from the public have any questions for the applicant? Or any board members?
I have a question. Hello?
Mhm.
Oh, so the renovation that's going on to Queen Anne, what type of renovations are you guys doing right now?
It's an architectural and full renovation of the house to bring it back up to living standards and its original glory as an example of the Queen Anne architectural style. It's going through the full HPOZ process for rehabilitation up to required standards.
Can anyone hear me? This is Josh, the owner.
Oh, hey, hi.
Hi,
Oops, you cut out, Josh.
Is that Vince, is that on our end or his end?
I'm guessing it's on his end. Is Tina Carter on the line? Maybe she can further elaborate on the house.
sorry, how's it working now? I apologize. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Sorry, I'm having problems unmuting. It just keeps remuting me, but we are doing a full restoration of the Queen Anne, and we've gone through full HPOZ approval. So it will be hopefully like new, but with updated electric. So it's going to be, it's hopefully going to be a fully restored house. That's what we have planned, and that's what we have approved plans on.
Is there any additions to the property to that unit?
No, sir.
That's two parcels, correct? I'm looking at the.
No, the property to the north of the Queen Anne is a separate parcel that's owned by someone else. We do not own.
Oh, so that's a private individual.
There's a separate owner between the parking playground area and the Queen Anne.
So strange. I'm trying to zoom in on that property. Okay. Yeah, it's
And to answer,
Christian.
oh, to answer your earlier question about its use, the caretaker had lived there until about 20 years ago, who had taken care of the convent area. And then it had been vacant for about 18, 19 years before we got it. So it was pretty derelict and essentially falling down.
Yeah, the caretakers are our friend's uncle.
Mm.
Yeah, yeah. He knows everything about that site. Yeah, Gate Street's really important right there. It's a really significant street. The house on the end of the street, up at the top, that's where they printed La Raza newspaper. That was the headquarters.
Oh, wow. That's
Yeah.
cool.
Mm-hmm.
Right, the next hand we have up is Tina Carter.
Tina?
Oh, I was just raising my, can you guys hear me?
Yep.
Okay, I was just raising my hand to answer the house questions, but Josh already did that. I just wanted to make sure I could answer questions in the future if you needed me to.
Okay, cool. Yeah.
All right, our next hand is Emma Howard.
Hi, Emma. Let's see
Hey,
this-
everybody. It's Emma Howard. I'm the planning director for Councilmember De Leon. So I just wanted to say hello. I wanted to note that I'm on the line. And I'm here to kind of answer any questions. I know last time folks had sort of asked, like, why would somebody ask for a zone change? So I'm here as sort of a, I don't know, party who's happy to answer those kinds of questions or just answer questions about the plum process or anything else that the neighborhood council or the public wants to know about. So nothing specific, but I just wanted to note that I'm here. And if you call my name, I'll unmute myself and say, answer questions.
Awesome. Just for clarification, are you in any way associated with this project, or is Kevin De Leon's office associated with this project?
No, we're your council office. We're your elected representatives. We come to neighborhood council meetings and gather input. We'll be making, city council will be making the final determination of whether or not to grant the zone change. So that's why I attend meetings.
Is Kevin on the plum committee?
No, he's not on the plum committee. He's on city council.
Yeah, but I mean, he's not on that. He's probably on a different committee if he's not on plum. I think, yeah, okay.
I think-
Emma, I have a question for you about like adaptive reuse. So like adaptive reuse, it's like who determines what needs to be repurposed? For instance, like, we have this is a school and, it's like a public, like a school church type of thing.
Sure.
Community, it's an amenity. It's something the community kind of needs. It's like we have the by right parking lot. We have these sites that are like like a relic of the past because this was a streetcar neighborhood. So like people shop, that we have businesses on like Lincoln Park Ave at the top, just like whatever. We're losing, it's kind of weird because the people kind of really have no say in what gets like adapted. Like,
Sure.
well, and also like the general plan amendment, like to rezone it as commercial, like that's kind of a double law, like another level of weird, like laws maybe.
Yeah, so let me sort of speak to kind of what you have the right to do with a parcel, right? So when the nuns had this parcel, they technically were really only supposed to be using it for residential, right? They had R1 zoning, so single family zoning. But then they got a variance, so they got permission from the planning department to run it as the sort of educational facility, right? And so it was a private school, it was private land. So it's not the same as, say, if we took a public school, it's private land, and when the nuns sold it, they didn't have to ask permission the way we would with public land for, what they wanted to do with their property, right? They just were allowed to sell it and they sold it to somebody else. I think the question is, it's privately owned land. So the question I think becomes, if this committee feels that this owner is, meeting those requirements, I'll note the City Planning Commission felt that rezoning the property would preserve all of these buildings and it gives a use. If you're asking, adaptive reuse in the sense of
City Planning Commission that decides like what buildings get kind of adapted.
Well, so okay, if you
Or
bought
the
a piece of
elected people that make the decisions.
if you bought a piece of land, right, and you had a piece of land, let's say you bought a commercial storefront, right? There was a storefront that had been a daycare.
Mhm.
and you purchase it, there's a list of things you can do with that property in the zoning code, and there's a list of things you can't do with that property in the zoning code. And what would be weird though is if you bought a commercial property that had been used for a daycare, like these folks did, that was zoned for single family, which is what's going on with this property. So that's what's kind of strange here, is that they bought a property that essentially has commercial buildings on it and was used in what's, I mean, I know the nuns were offering it as sort of a public benefit, but the use itself is technically considered a commercial use. And now,
There's a lot of land in Lincoln Heights, like so much city-owned property, so much property that's been basically with the opportunity zones, you know, it's like people kind of snatched them up and they're letting them decay so they could tear them down. They get upzoned, you know, it's like they're incentivized.
well,
At Rose Eye Medical, the lot on North Broadway there that now has that medical center, I found that there had been a proposal. It was that like Redfields to Greenfields program or something. They were actually proposing, or people were proposing to do like a giant community garden with a community center and all this stuff. And it's like, instead, we got like this giant medical center abutting basically right behind that medical center. I'm looking at the map. Yeah, there's the Queen Anne, and it looks like there's another home.
I'd be happy to come talk about kind of what generally is going on in the neighborhood for this specific site. I guess what I would say is, in terms of adaptive reuse or sort of this use of the site, I guess the question for folks is, do you want the zoning to facilitate the kind of use that folks are proposing here now? Or do you want to keep it R1, in which case, if it's sold, there will be no ability to stop the tear down of these properties really? And it is R1, people will probably propose something like a small lot subdivision. And there's some applicability of HPOZs, but HPOZs get overruled when you're building housing. So I guess that's kind of the question, is the delta between, you have a site that was R1, but not used for R1 uses. So I guess the question is, you know, this is private property. We don't get to dictate 100% of what somebody does with private property. What we do get to go off of is which zoning that they have and the list of things that are allowed in that zoning. So I guess to that end, but the way that the process works, the City Planning Commission makes recommendations, the Planning Department makes recommendations, and all of that gets submitted to City Council. So the ultimate decision-making will be the City Council members. So I guess in the question of who decides here, that's the who decides process. And then I guess the question for the neighborhood council that I'm interested in is, you know, as I recommend to my boss what he should consider, we want to know what the community voices are about the site and the recommendations.
I mean, this is a residential neighborhood. This is like, I look at maps all day long for the past 150 years of like this site right here. That street used to go kind of all the way through too. We have this problem in Lincoln Heights where like USC tore down like half of our neighborhood over the past, whatever, 50 years. And we have these big medical complexes popping up and commercial places popping up where people's homes are like a few feet away. We have small lot subdivisions popping up for like these mini mega mansions next to like people's Section 8 apartments, like 5 inches away from their window. Lincoln Heights is special because like we have these lots that are long and big, and you have like one house, you know, you have space. This property's sprawling and it has so many elements. It has the hillside. It has a single family home. That's also a historic home in the HPOZ.
Tara, we have board member Adams that had his hand up.
Yeah, sorry, I'm gonna stop talking.
Adam?
Yeah, as far as the variance that was made from residential, what was the basis of that approval? What was the basis for their variance that was made as far as the previous use?
Well, I mean, I can only add that this is Paul Gary. The variance was approved, I think, sometime in the 1960s, but the the Carmelite Sisters have operated this site for 75 years. So it's been a part of the community for 75 years as these buildings and other buildings before that. But these buildings were built in the 1940s. So these structures are part of the community, and we want them to continue to be part of the community. How the school operated and the variance wouldn't allow the buildings to be reused as anything else other than a school, and no school came to the sisters and said, we want to open another school in this location. They couldn't find a tenant to lease it out or do anything else. So, and other people wanted to tear things down. You know, we came along with a plan to reuse the buildings and keep the campus intact. That's why, you know, we feel that this is a very good use of the existing buildings that keeps, you know, jobs coming in and the neighborhood in the way it's been for decades.
And I think to speak to the point that Sarah, this is Josh again, sorry. To speak to the point that you made, Sarah, we want to keep every aspect of that sprawling property, and we don't intend to subdivide it or do anything like that. So I think from a physical standpoint, I know you have other concerns about the commercial side, but from a physical standpoint, our intent lines up with exactly the kind of things that you're talking about.
Yeah, I mean, the 60s in Lincoln Heights were very tumultuous. I don't know if you know, but like Art Snyder, you know, in 1968, they were going to take Paradise Hill and build a dump. Or wait, actually, Earl, before that, they were trying to put a municipal dump up at Paradise Hill because they maxed out over in, you know, where the police academy is, that other dump. We fought it. But then Art Snyder sold Paradise Hill for $75,000 to a private developer, and he got busted. And he, during that time, was helping people get zoning variances. But the reason was we had no jobs. It was like a crisis, right? So like the jail, they were going to turn that into a factory for people for Lincoln, like to provide 2,000 jobs for the people of Lincoln Heights. And that didn't work out. So then they did Avenue 34 or whatever. But I mean, I could see at the time, maybe he thought that this would bring jobs or something like that. That's the kind, you know, I know you're going to make jobs, like we need jobs. We need jobs bad.
We have every intent of creating a lot of jobs for people in the neighborhood who don't have to go far to work. And that's what we're all about.
We have Fernanda Sanchez next after this. Fernanda?
Sorry, I was muted. A few points to make. One being that Lincoln Heights already has very limited open space available to pretty much anyone in the public. And these intentions that you guys are stating to have of keeping it open or accessible or whatever it may be, these sorts of verbal covenants aren't legally binding whatsoever. You know, 1 or 2, 5, 10 years down the line, it may not be the case that whatever your intentions today are will actually be seen as time goes by. Additionally, in terms of like the jobs that you're offering in this specific type of field, although Lincoln Heights is an up and coming community with younger, more affluent young people moving into the neighborhood, what kind of community outreach are you doing so that majority of the native Lincoln Heights who are predominantly non-English speaking neighbors, how will they be able to be included into any sort of plan that you have for this space? Specifically, you know, you have a big selling point of offering jobs, but to who are you actually offering those jobs? So I'm more curious to see in terms of how exactly are you catering to the majority of what it is Lincoln Heights right now.
Yeah, because sorry for anybody, like, so many of these businesses that have come through our council have promised to give jobs to our community, like the coffee shop, Tiramia, all that, but it's just people, they don't hire locals.
No.
Had a sign on their door that said we're not hiring, you know, it's totally contradicted. But
I-
yeah,
Fernanda, I just want to answer. So I'm in charge of hiring. This is Tina Carter. And what we do is we work with some city programs like Para los Niños and this group called GEI, which stands for Global Effort Initiative. And basically they help us hire from our neighborhoods. That's within probably most of Kevin DeLeon's areas. And we can't specify, but we would like to use a community job board and some other things. And those were things that later we can bring up, what you guys might feel as a local council, what the best way to maybe update a job board situation for the neighborhood. It's definitely part of my plan in terms of trying to keep less commuters, less cars going through, more people who can use the bus system, which is one of the benefits of being close to Broadway. So basically, once we're able to be in this building fully and inhabit this space, I'll be definitely looking for how to best do job postings in the neighborhood. As well, we're planning on reaching out to the high school next door. And those are things that I used to do in Echo Park with other schools there. So I hope that answers the question.
Thank you,
Thank
Tina. Oh, Melanie?
Hi, thank you. Like Fernie was saying, you know, it's so hard, and I'm gonna just try and speak freely here. I appreciate a lot of what you're trying to do with this space as someone who's personally attached to Little Flower. And so much of it sounds it really appeals to me as someone who cares about not only this property, but deeply about my community. However, you know, with the promises that are not binding, if those aren't kept, it doesn't hurt me. I'm fine as a gentrifier in this neighborhood, but I have to consider the harm that would do to my community at large. And it's a scary position to be in. And I just want to know, I don't know how to know if what you're saying is sincere. And I don't know what assurances that you can give us to reassure us in the community that we're not going to be making a decision or being a part of a decision that ultimately will cause more harm to a community that has just historically been harmed over and over again. And I also just want to make sure that you're prepared for being in that position where you will be a business within a community such as ours. And being ready to, I mean, running a business is hard enough, but running a business and making sure that you're not negatively impacting the community as a whole job within itself. And I want to make sure that you guys are prepared for that, for the kind of footwork and dedication that's going to take. And I don't mean to minimize the dedication and footwork that's gone into what you've already done so far. I do appreciate the steps that you've taken so far, but you know, it's really going to be on you guys. And it also concerns me to just rely on not community organizations, but organizations, especially city organizations, because many times they're not in touch with what the direct community that you're in, their specific needs. So I would like to know that you guys will personally be involved in making sure that you are serving the community directly for the things that we've been talking about. I'm sorry, that was a little convoluted, but I hope that makes sense.
Thank
I
you,
understood
Melanie.
it. I understood it very well, Melanie. This is Josh. I can tell you, just to answer your second question first, we're very prepared to be a part of the community and to be a business in Lincoln Heights. I am a third generation Angelino. My grandparents were both born in Boyle Heights, so I haven't come very far in my life. And I am very much a part of the East Side. I've lived in Echo Park for 30 years, so I feel like it's a natural extension to have found such a beautiful place that we can inhabit. And I absolutely adore and love the neighborhood. And I want to be a part of it. I don't know how to convince you of my sincerity. Come see us sometime, come meet us. I think our sincerity will telegraph to you just in terms of who we are and what we do and the kind of work that we do. But I'm 100% prepared for our company to be a company of the community and not just a company that sits on the hill with a big fence around it.
And I just want to chime in that we would love to meet people. We've been meeting people for the past 3 years, ever since we started visiting, and gotten to know a ton of neighbors and all about the neighborhood. And I've enjoyed all the neighborhood council meetings that I've attended, even since 2019, and getting to know you guys as community members. And I'd like to just continue that. And there's really no other way than time and trust. And we intend to be there all the time and invest along with our children who are older.
And I just want to add on to some of the things that I'm listening to as a committee member and a resident of Lincoln Heights. The history of policy, and this is more for like Emma, because I think this is important to send back to our city council members. Often when these projects approach us, there's an environmental impact report that's attached to it. Now, I was reading your guys' environmental impact report, and there's always insignificant, effects to the area. Well, we know that not to be true. One of the problems I have with environmental impact reports that are done that make these projects disingenuous through policy is you look at that the developer is the one who hires the people who do the environmental impact report, right? These environmental impact reports should be done by either a city department, which we don't have, or a state department, which we do have, but are often left to the hands of developers. And this is what makes the process disingenuous, because we found that there are significant impacts. This site has a 10,000 add-on on its open space, which would make an impact. It's not there now. We're hearing it's a maybe not. That already sets alarms in my head, being in planning for such a long time, from District 13 to the Hollywood plans. We understand that covenants really don't mean anything. And it may not be the developer's intent or to prove, but I think that, Emma, one of the things that we see in policy, especially land use, is that it's rooted in racism. The outcome of this project being developed in Lincoln Heights, I don't know what the intent of the developer was, but our areas are usually targeted because of the cheaper land values. And that this development in Echo Park would probably be twice as much and out of range. And that in itself, to bring businesses that are going to affect property value, by just proposing this raises the value of our neighborhood, which means that the average house is going to go up, which means the average resident could never afford anything in their own neighborhoods. And this is a trickle down effect of the policies, because I want to say I'm crazy, but we recently had a commissioner, Helen Lung, who literally stood up and said that she could no longer practice racist policies. And I think that's important for us to understand, because for us to even approve this, it would be putting our community and their future at automatic destruction. They're being erased through the policies that are supposed to be protecting them and that we're supposed to be applying today. And while most will say that those policies are not where are before us, the one key thing that even Kevin De Leon and all elected officials are beholden to is the health, the safety, and the welfare of the people that we were elected by. And I think that some of these issues, while looking at them, they may be good intent, but I think whether it's direct or indirect harm, our community would be harmed by this project.
Can I?
I just want to say one quick thing in response to that. Thank you for that comment. I appreciate it, and I respect everything you brought up there. We are 100% not a developer. We have no intent to develop the property. The idea of any additional construction is conceptual stuff that we would possibly add on to be small space that would be part of our business, but we are not developers.
No, and I respect that, Josh. The only thing I'm saying is this, is that the public has nothing within the city's power to be able to hold you accountable to that. Now, this is not a question of whether you are a developer or not. This
Vincent,
is a
Well,
question if not down the road, the public
Sorry.
will not have anything to say about this except the elected officials. And let's face it, we have Weezer and we have a lot of people that are in these problems. And this is what the public is fearful of, regardless if the developer wants it or not. These are elected officials that have betrayed the public's trust. And this is why sometimes when I look at these, don't get me wrong, I've seen a lot of these projects. I've seen some weird things go on in the city. And this is why this one makes me more leery than anything. And it's made, like I said, it's direct and indirect sometimes. But this is a policy issue. And this is why I referred it to Emma, because I think this is one of the most important things for the public, me as an elected official on the council, to have confidence within the policy and have confidence in my elected city council member that will be beholden, so that when we make a solid deal, we can say that those covenants will stay in place and set forth, not having to depend on people, but the law. And that's what I base my principle on when I vote on something. But I see
fully
Emma's hand
understood.
up.
If I can be allowed to
Paul,
address,
could I
yes.
answer, since it was addressed to me? I would love to just sort of address some of the general concerns.
Well, I'm,
Paul,
what,
Paul,
sorry,
Paul, may I please? This is Emma. Hi.
Hi, you
to-
have to be acknowledged before speaking in order to avoid any sort of interruption. I see that Emma's hand is up, so we'll allow her to speak first.
Okay, thank you. I appreciate that. What I would like to just put in front of this committee, this zone change request was being processed in Council District 1 until January 1st. 2 days before the City Planning Commission hearing, the planning department let us know that they sent out the hearing notices with CD1 still marked on it, and that this project was in CD14. So you have an opportunity to talk to your elected office. We're here, we're present. I flagged that this case was coming through, and I asked if this committee and if this neighborhood council wanted to provide comments to us. At this point in time, I have a letter of support from this neighborhood council in my file from 2019. That's obviously not the composition of the board today. So what I'm interested in knowing is, are there recommendations from this board about this project, whether that's denial, support, whether that's specific concerns that you have? The next decision maker is going to be the council.
Yeah,
And
we
therefore,
do this a lot. We do this a lot. It's
okay,
yeah. So the thing is that during COVID, the city expedited all these major projects, and they did a lot of them, like in the Adelante East Side redevelopment plan area, like the Brine. You know,
yeah, I understand.
they did Avenue 34, right? And we stopped it. We stopped them. But you know, that with the redistricting, I'll just set it there. You know, the way, just the whole history of gerrymandering and Lincoln Heights and all that stuff, we had a simple request to be kept whole. And like, mysteriously enough, we got just chopped in half through our most vulnerable parts. And then in the last minute, Kevin De Leon made a motion to kick the border over to Broadway instead of Hancock. So it just does some weird thing with like potential projects that people had in the pipeline. I don't know what's going on, but Boyle Heights is flat. You have El Sereno and stuff, but like, you worked on the Hillside ordinance, right? Northeast Hillside ordinance?
I didn't
Emma?
work on the Northeast Hillside ordinance was adopted in the 90s. I wasn't working for the city.
Somebody was saying that you
I worked in hillside areas and I worked on significant ecological areas.
yeah. So like in Lincoln Heights, a lot of the things that are affecting us now were like developed a decade ago, and they're just being implemented now, like the Adelante East Side redevelopment plan, which is now all the way up at Main Street, taking our residential single family homes and then turning it into medical facilities. And then also taking our historic homes and incorporating them within like their hospital, you know, they're moving them to be like pediatric units. They're taking homes, you know. I don't, you know, it's like, you say, you know, there's a thing in our neighborhood too. It's like we have all these nonprofits that do all the, going in between, interfacing with the people. It's like, people shouldn't come to you. It's like, you should be walking the streets talking to everybody, like, part of the community. It's like, I don't know.
Well, I guess what I would just note is that I'm certainly happy to stop by, talk about the big picture, certainly happy to kind of hear suggestions.
We have 39,000 people in Lincoln Heights.
Eh,
And,
Right. I would just note
the
this,
best context, after the fact, it's like they already had the CPC thing, we weren't even notified of that CPC hearing.
right. Well, that's why I sent the email, because I was concerned that the notifications didn't go to the right places.
That's the step, it's like,
But
yes,
to
like
that-
somebody can buy property and do whatever they want, but if it's not zoned for that. And
Right.
seeing in the Adelante East Side redevelopment plan, this, like they turned something into a brewery, like a cider brewery, but it was zoned public facilities. And
Sarah, on this,
makes sense.
on this
So-
issue, I would say if we made a motion right now on the,
I'm just
on
like-
everything that we talked about,
It's major.
that we make a motion on a denial letter based upon what we spoke about in the concerns of the committee. And then we draft that letter up and send it to the executive committee to be put onto the general board. And
Yeah.
then we have a discussion on the general board, whether
Mhm.
the denial letter will be approved or not approved.
Is there anything, this is Josh again, is there anything we can say to sway your opinion? I mean, I can tell you, we're really sincere people. We're a family business. We're not real estate developers. We've been pushed around by the city for 3 years trying to get this thing through. We are 100% sincere before you. And I just want to take this one last opportunity to try to reach out in a friendly way, as we have been the whole time.
I mean,
Josh,
it's-
well, I just say, like, for me, Josh, it has nothing to do with you guys. And I think I made it clear when I directed it to Emma, because I think it's more of a structural problem in government and policy. I think until they change those and just look at it this way, our only option right now is to accept your guys' proposal, which we know can affect the community in many ways, like I said, directly and indirectly. And the other option is to not allow you guys to do it, and then development will come in. So when you look at it from the public's perspective, we don't have a choice. And I think this is important for people like Emma and Kevin De Leon to see that what we're trying to do is protect the community, because we're having to deal with all the renter right issues. We have to deal with the homeless situation. And I'm not even talking about the anxiety that these projects bring to people. Okay, because they know what's inevitable for their area. And like I said, it's nothing that you guys are doing. This is definitely something that's within the policy and something we have to look into. That's why we write these letters, in hopes that sometimes the city council will take it seriously. Because I ask everyone to go research. When you hear your own appointed planning commissioners use the words that there are racist policies in the city of LA, every one of our elected officials should have been alarmed. There should have been an emergency meeting to address those, because they do exist within our policies. The outcomes are not favorable to the people. As Emma stated, there's only 2 options here. Each of those options damage the community to some degree. And to me, that should never be. But hold on, Sarah. Benny had his hand up for the long time.
Yeah, Benny, sorry.
Benny?
Mr. Madera.
Benny?
Yeah, can you hear me?
Oh, yes, we can hear you now.
All right, sorry, I got some issues over here with the technology, but well, my question is to Emma. Like, if, let's say we recommend a no vote to, and the city council votes no, then what's the next step? What happens?
So what would then happen is you have a site here, this big site that's zoned R1. So it's zoned for residential uses. So you have, I don't know, will the property owner sell it? Will it be subdivided into single family homes? Possibly. Will somebody else come back and ask for the same kind of zone change? Possibly. Will it sit vacant? Will the buildings fall down? Possibly. I don't know. It's hard to say what will happen absent this project, which is, so it's a little hard to game out what exactly will happen, but you have R1 zoning. So I would assume single family residence, which would probably have somebody wanting to divide up this property and tear down the existing. That would be my guess, but I can't say for sure. I don't have a magic 8-ball. I guess for me, my question back to this body, if you're writing a denial letter, I'd like to know kind of, I mean, understanding that the system stinks and that zoning stinks, inside the framework of that, what specific outcomes would you like on this site would be helpful, or what specific policies or specific guarantees are kind of lacking, because that's something where we can hopefully respond specifically to those questions.
And I just want to say something just to that, Emma. That's one of the problems, is that now we're gonna give certain things that we might be happy with, and it already gives me the decision-making process of Kevin De Leon, that it'll be approved with the conditions that we give them. I think that's one of the problems, Emma, that I think needs to go back to Kevin, is that some of these projects and the community being elected in as a neighborhood council, we're literally telling you directly what the community needs. And if Kevin only has to bypass us and say, well, if they say, for example, don't use the open space, right? Leave it open and turn it into a public park. That's really not an option for us, because he works for us, first of all, and for us to be disregarded to the side that way through process and just say, well, you were included because you said you wanted to do this and this and this. I think that's the problem with government today. There is nothing set in stone when the public is given an outcry on what can happen. And then the developers, whether good or bad, they're sitting in the middle of this, right? Because of the policy.
Yeah,
that's why I recommend that our letter does one thing.
Well,
that it denies it completely, so the community is on record with the understanding of the fears of what's happening in the city right now and its policies. And that the only thing that's left for us to do now is to make sure that these get out, and they get out in huge numbers. And I've always pushed neighborhood councils to do this, because I don't think our elected officials are looking at the options they're leaving us with, because there is none. You either take this project as is, and we thank everybody because it's going to stay the way it is, but you're going to have to add on 10,000 square feet, which will bring people in. That will have a significant impact. The environmental impact report is probably not accurate based on what we know, because it's not done by a public agency. And or if not, then it's R1.
But yeah, Kevin, politicians don't know the history of Lincoln Heights. Yeah, it's just crazy. This is where they capitalized on the water. Like, there was no life away from the water. And so where your site is actually where the east side ditch ran to the reservoir over near Lincoln Park, where the Forever 21 is now. But the city, our land, we have like the lowest home ownership rate in the city, just from the history of not just the freeways coming through and everything, but the city snatching up all this land and just letting it sit. It's like so much land you don't even know. It's not just the jail and general hospital. It's like every little triangle of green grass everywhere on the side of the highway. But yeah, so like, whatever, double dipping.
We have two hands up.
Guys, because we had a CEQA appeal illegally canceled by the mayor for Avenue 34, and then we had a project, an 8,500 square foot mega mansion project on our hills, approved by the mayor, bypassing every law, like every environmental law. It doesn't make any sense. So we just bring it to the people. Yeah, so the people are gonna, have their say.
We have two hands up. Paul Gary.
Yes, thank you, Fernanda. I would just like to kind of address a couple points that Vicente brought up. One regarding the environmental review that was done for the project. the city, in this case, prepared the environmental review for the project. The applicant did not do that. The city planning staff prepared the analysis, and they looked at the impacts of the project and the impacts of the potential development of 10,000 square feet and found that there were no significant impacts. So an environmental impact report was not prepared or not required. So I just want to let you know that the applicant did not prepare the environmental review in this case. It is all the product of the city's planning staff. Secondly, I just want to mention that the Q conditions and delimitations that were recommended by the Planning Commission would basically limit all they could do to the kind of office use and kind of post-production uses that they're proposed. So those conditions are enforced by the planning department, and we cannot change those. And so that would kind of guarantee that if the project is approved, it would only operate under those conditions, which is just to reuse the existing buildings and potentially build 10,000 square feet more of offices, which would be small 1- and 2-story buildings. If the project were not approved, then you'd have no certainty of what will happen to the project property afterwards. It could, as Emma said, a number of things could happen, but you certainly wouldn't have the certainty to know that the existing buildings would be preserved by a tenant like this and an owner like this. So I would just ask that you take that into consideration in making your recommendations on the project about kind of the opportunity cost if this project is not approved, what might happen in its place, and that may not be any better for the community. Thank you.
Jabs Frog.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. I just got a question to the persons doing the presentation. How is this project will benefit the long-term residents of Lincoln Heights, especially the ones below the poverty federal levels, aka very low and extremely low income families that I don't know if you know, but we are being kicked out, displaced, gentrified due to developments such as this one. So could you tell us how is this going to benefit us, or if this is going to be another development that is going to gentrify, kicking us out of the place that we have lived for generations? Thank you.
Sure, let me try. All of the existing buildings were school buildings, so there have never been residential units on the property that's being zone changed. So there are no residents that are being displaced by the change in use from the school to offices. So it will only, add maybe more offices. So there will be no displacement of any existing residents in the community. And it will provide jobs and business for the businesses around there, the people that are work there. They will do shopping, they will frequent restaurants, so they will add to the community and help benefit the overall economic status of the community by this. And not every property is kind of intended for residential use or commercial use. This one has been a commercial use and would continue to be a commercial use that we think would benefit the entire community while not displacing any residents.
I understand, but okay, let's say I would like to rent one of your offices or one of your places to open up or move my business into this place. The rent is going to be available? Not available, affordable? how affordable it's gonna be, because if this is gonna be the market rate, you know, prices and all that, that's the same problem with the rent of with rent for most of the residents. We cannot afford the new rents. We cannot afford the new rents for these places too. Thank you.
Thank you. I appreciate the question. So the owner of the building will be using the buildings for their own business only. So there will not be offices available for rent to other tenants. They will be occupying all of the buildings on the site. So it's a single tenant kind of occupied business that you might see somewhere else. So it won't take away any business or offices from anyone, but it won't be adding office space for other tenants too.
I think Emma has her hand up. And then we'll close with Emma.
No, I apologize. I think that was from earlier.
Okay. Sarah?
So I'm looking at the Sanborn map here of that site. Toot, 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 from 19.
Sarah, can we get the motion so we can?
Yeah.
Okay, so the original motion I made was a motion, a denial letter for the 2417-2455 North Thomas Street and 2428, 2436 North Gate Street Avenue, California, Los Angeles, California, 90031. And it is a letter of denial with what the issues that were brought up by not only the public, but the board members.
So
we
yeah,
can-
the letter of denial goes to, it's the CPC hearing already happened. So CPC and the PLUM, so go, yeah, Cedillo is up, co-chair or whatever. It's Kevin, and I want to send it to the chief equity director for, I invited him to a meeting before, but chief equity director of LA City Planning too.
Well,
It's like the development's this big, we need, yeah, the community has to like have a say in it, yeah. But
no, for sure. I think we should send it to planning and whoever else you want to CC it to. But I think right now it's just getting the letter to the executive committee. And just to let everyone know in the meeting, this letter is an advisory position right now. It'll go through our executive committee, and the finalization of whether it's denied or not will be done at our general board meeting, which is going to be held tomorrow. So this is not a final decision of this board. It's the advisory to the general board that a letter of denial be issued based on some of the issues that you guys heard, if not all the issues. And then that letter would be provided for tomorrow's meeting, unless moved around for whatever reason, if we have to delay it or something, but it would be scheduled for tomorrow.
I mean, the thing with that letter, it's like, you know, the city could, you know, make their own determination and not even consider what we think or feel, but it does give us the opportunity to speak at City Hall or whatever. Yeah.
No, I just think it's good that we take a position with those things and that a copy be sent to Emma and Councilman Kevin De Leon, so that people have a clear understanding of why we take these positions. We live in our communities, we understand the people. And I think sometimes a lot of, you know, the bigger government is disconnected from us. And neighborhood councils were specifically designed for our elected officials so that we can bridge the people's issues straight to the council. And in a lot of times, that is not the case with our elected officials. And I hope that we can meet with Emma and Kevin to see if that narrative can be broken, because unfortunately, I've been on a lot of neighborhood councils where that narrative is 100% true and the councilman totally disregards. So I think with Emma being here, I think that's a good sign, because she's listening, she's taking this stuff back, whether people agree or disagree with this. I think it's a good step forward, but I motion for that letter to be created. I need a second.
Second, Richard.
Richard Ortiz seconds. Okay. So with the second, it's going to move forward. The letter, will create it, and it should be, well, no, it can't be in tomorrow's meeting, Sarah, because this is not, is this a time, does this have a time sensitive?
What? Yeah, it's gonna go to the plum in a couple weeks, maybe in like 2 weeks.
Okay. And we have this issue on the agenda, right?
Yeah,
for
this is on the agenda.
Okay, so it should be in tomorrow's meeting.
Yeah, and yeah, the community will speak. Yeah, yeah, Kevin, it's like the people are right. This is a democracy,
Well, we move it. We draft the letter and send it to them, and we
Yeah.
wait. At the end of the day, the general board will make the decision. So everyone that was here today is more than welcome to join the meeting tomorrow.
Mhm.
We have our link up on the website. And Fernanda, can you just take a vote for those in favor of the letter being drafted up and sent to the general board?
Right. Just to reiterate the motion, this is for a letter of denial. Sarah Clendenning,
I,
Chente,
Yes.
Fernanda, yes. Benny,
Yes.
Christopher,
Yes.
Melanie,
Yes.
Nancy,
Yes.
Richard.
Yes.
That's 8 yeses, unanimous, motion carries.
Vince, I have a quick question.
Yeah.
So yeah, this is going to council, but right now this is just a letter to city planning and CPC and whatever. We're going to need to write a community impact statement with the council file number, like maybe, could we do it both? Like,
Yeah, this letter can be attached to it.
because we don't have the council file number yet. Yeah.
No, that's what I'm saying. If it doesn't have a council file yet on it, it may have an existing one, and we got to look that up. As long as the letter goes to the city planning, a copy goes to Kevin De Leon and Emma.
Mhm.
Okay, and we can send it in on the early notification network for it. The city, you'll still have the 5 minutes to speak under public comment if any other hearing comes up. Okay, so even at the council, when they want to decide, or sometimes they pass them too fast at the city level. We still should call for our 5 minutes to speak in front of the council on the issues that we are going to put into the letter. And then from there, once it's decided at their level.
Okay, and there are old council files associated with this from the 60s.
Correct.
But yeah, the environmental thing is weird because this property, it went through a lot of uses. There could be underground storage tanks, for instance. So we got to look into it.
Well, I want to thank everyone that was here on the issue for it, because I know it's tough for everybody, but again, I just want people to know that we were elected by the people. Part of our job is, our fiduciary duty is to not only uphold and be fair with them, but to protect them. For far too often, our neighborhoods have been abused in many ways, directly and indirectly, and it's just an unfair system. But thank
Well,
you.
I appreciate your time. And again, I'm going to leave by just saying I have every intent of honoring the neighborhood. So you'll find that out in the long term from me, and we'll be friends in the end. Thank you guys so much.
Thank you, Josh.
Yeah, I'm friends. Friends. But yeah.
So we got.
All right, so next item. Toodaloo, okay. 6C, discussion and possible action on letter regarding 2751 North Abrigo Ave, new single family dwelling in Northeast Hillside area. And then there are two city planning files, the CEQA environmental, and then the zoning one. Yeah, I have two items. Hold on one second. Yeah, so the C is actually for the house, because I don't think our council ever voted on that. And then D is for a new council file that just came out for an easement on Abrigo that we kind of have to expedite this for, because this is actually an expedited case. It's a
Okay.
expedited thing. Accelerated procedure, it says.
Let me just, I know Mel had her hand up. I just want to make sure it's nothing important that we have to deal with right now. Maybe we missed something. Mel?
I'm so sorry. I have to leave. I hate to do this. I just wanted to make sure that we are still at quorum if I do sign off right now. Because if we're not, then I will tell my interviewing people that I just can't be there for them. But are we gonna be okay if I am not here?
Yes.
Okay, I'm so sorry, guys. It won't happen again. Thank you. Okay, best of luck with the rest of the meeting.
Thank
Thanks
you,
a lot. Okay, bye.
Sarah, do we have
Oh,
present?
yeah, we have
for item
Dennis.
C? Oh,
Is Dennis, so I kept him waiting. Dennis would be in the attendees. Let's see if he's,
let me move him over.
and then, we have yeah, a lot of supplementary documents on the website, but it might be overwhelming, but, so,
Okay, and this is another
an old-
presentation.
this is from 2019, single family home, it wasn't by rate. Yeah, there's
Yep.
issues with the road and the access. So, yeah, so we'll do a little presentation.
Let me see. Dennis, if you can hear me, I'm promoting you to panelist. And I just need to know if you need access to the share screen.
Yes, here I am. Can you hear me?
Yes, then Dennis, do you need share screen?
Would you say again?
Do you need the share screen option for the presentation, or will you just?
Yes, please. Yes, please.
Okay, give me 1 second. Let me get out of here. Okay, you should have it now. Dennis, did you get it?
No, still, I don't see any of my screen.
Okay, let me make you a host. Give me 1 second.
Okay.
Okay. Did you see a prompt on your screen?
Oh, yes, just see my name only.
You don't see where it says host? I sent you a little link, a little bubble should have popped up and it should say click here.
Okay, host.
At the bottom, there's also a green arrow that says share screen.
Share screen, mute, start video. Yeah, I got share screen.
Okay. Okay, there we go.
So this is at one, wait, what's the address? Abrigo. Abrigo is between Pruitt and the old gate at the bottom of Flat Top.
Dennis, we can see your screen now. So if you can just share the file on your screen, we'll be able to see it.
Dennis, I have the, your initial submissions for the, to city planning with the, renderings, if you, if that would work too.
You have them, Sarah? Because Dennis, what I can do is give Sarah the host, and she can put it on her screen.
They're
And
on the
then
website, if you want to do it, Vince, or my computer has a lot of junk on it.
let me see.
Yeah, they're just on the website. It would be item number. So there's 3 files. There's an extensive CPC one, which is like a compilation. Let's see, 2.8. And then there's one.
This is item 6D, right?
It's 6C.
Okay, 6C. Give me 1 second.
Yeah, so it's 6C. Plug 2751.
Okay, it's not our letter. It's gonna be. All right, let me know if it's this, Dennis, and maybe we can use this document.
Okay. Okay. That's one of the earlier documents. Yeah, so that's the environmental. And then there's one with images.
This is not the one you need?
We'll keep that one up for a second. 1 second.
This is the only one that I have that might have the.
Does that, did I make a compilation out of that one? Is it a long? Yeah, that's it. That's it. Yeah, so it has like, Dennis, I kind of put all of your submissions into one file. So it's kind of got it all in there.
Hi, Dennis. Dennis? I think we lost him.
Uh-oh. Is he in the attendee set?
Oh, I see him here in the on the panelist, but
All right. Well, can you get it back on the audio?
he has his audio open.
Okay, let's just scroll down on that document for a second, Vince. Just get, there's some profile views of the site and of the structure. Okay, keep going there. Yeah, so that's where it would be on that yellow map. Right where the gate is on Abrigo, where that kind of new house is, where it turns.
One, oh, let me see. I'm just trying to see if I can get Den. Hello, Dennis.
Can you hear me?
Yes. Can you see your
Yes.
screen?
Yes, I do.
Okay, I can control it from this end. If you need to explain,
Yes.
just let me know if you need me to go up or down to explain the project.
Okay, good. This is our project area. This single family resident. And this is address with Abrigo Avenue between the Tweed Street and the Minnesota down below. And this all roadway with the dirt, and the only pavement is the right here, and it is stopped right here. And if you can scroll down to have a larger scale, no, the other way, the other way.
Like
more. Right there, thank you, right here. As you see that existing pavement is stopped right here to the next neighbor. And from here down below to all the way to Minnesota Street is the pavement, the unpaved. And we are proposing the pavement of 26 feet wide roadway from here to this position.
Okay. Oh, Dennis, so this item is just about the project itself, not about the easement. That's going to be another one. So
yeah,
you just tell us about like the details of the structure, how many square feet,
yes, thank you.
and also if you have like a pic, like an aerial view, a satellite view. That would-
Yeah, this is the layout of the single family residence, three-story high, and two basement and 1 story above the street level. And the size, the 4 bedrooms, and the size of the house is 2,300 square feet.
Mm. Vince, could you zoom in on, just make the picture bigger?
Yes, if you can scroll up.
Yeah.
Yeah, this one.
That's the
So
biggest it lets me.
That's the biggest you could get.
yes, this is the layout of the house.
And so Dennis, what entitlements were you asking for? Like, because of the road, there's a document, it's at one of the first pages where the city said that the roads, you know, aren't good enough or whatever, but Vince, can you scroll up to the top? It says some stuff
Oh,
in there,
the
the environmental
page-
report. It just describes the project pretty much. And then, okay, project exemption from CEQA. Okay, can you scroll down, Vince? It's like one of the last pages. Oh. Or I thought it was one of the beginning ones, but okay, keep going. Looking at the weird ones, okay. Okay, so this is a recent one. This is a zoning thing. Okay, so keep going, Vince. It's at the bottom of this. Go in there. Keep going. Okay, stop. Okay, wait, keep going. Sorry. Keep going. Okay, findings of fact. Okay, keep going one more second. Where's this thing? Keep going. Keep going. Okay, so findings. Okay, that's the next page. So these 2 pages are the ones with the findings. Okay, so Vince, just can you go to the next page? It says this thing. One more. Okay, here. All right, no, next one, sorry. Keep going. Okay, wait, stop. Okay, go back up a little bit. Okay, it says, okay, item 8, the site and or existing improvements make strict adherence to section 12.21C impractical or infeasible. The proposed project fronts on Abrigo Ave, which is a substandard hillside, limited street without any improvement in front of the subject project site. Bureau of Engineers is requiring a 5-foot street dedication and the applicable improvement of the frontage along the subject site. Wait. The enforcement of section 12.21C of the municipal code would create a financial and unreasonable burden and undue hardship. Strict compliance with it to require improvements to Abrigo, blah, 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 blah. So they're like, the city's kind of negotiating with this like easement there for fire access, but they're stating here that that street is not, it's, you know.
Yeah, that is President Sarah. It is sort of substandard, but the city is not allowed to make a pavement just in front of our new project area only.
There's never been houses on that property, on that whole Abrigo area.
No, not at all. The only thing is that our next door neighbor is existing for many years in the past.
So your structure will be next to, it will be on the other side of the road, like next to that newer house that's been empty for a while, right?
Yes, there's never been built in the last many during the history.
Okay, wait, I think the site where you're building, the aerial map looks strange, but that's this very steep hillside, correct?
Yes.
Oh,
so
that's the lookout point from Two Tree. If you're on Two Tree and you can look out.
Right.
Okay, I got you.
Just below the you know, that street.
Okay, so everybody knows this isn't like the flat part of Abrigo where you take pictures of the downtown with the palm trees from Illa Park.
Yes, yes, sort of. It's good view.
One. Yeah, near the gate. Oh, that's okay. Okay, I wish we had like photos of the actual site.
Well, on this issue, Sarah, is this when is this going before the council?
Well, so we never put a letter of we never made a council a determination on this case that was submitted. It just went to PLUC once and it stopped. So the council file, it was just released on the 2nd, and it says it's accelerated process. But yeah, this is like a big kind of a big thing because it's a substandard hillside. It's a super steep hillside, but it's also like, yeah.
So on this issue, is it in our best interest to do the same thing we did to the last one and let the general board decide if we submit a denial letter?
I think, yeah, I mean, if we could make it that simple, it's a bigger can of worms, I think, in terms of the safety of, a safety of the people type of thing with the mudslides and stuff. I think we need the Bureau of Engineers to come to our meeting and like, you know what I mean?
But excuse me, President Sarah, we have a stage of B permit already approved, and our permit was approved 3 months ago. And the house project was approved previously before COVID-19, when the past president Larson was in the office. I had a presentation of that in front of audience about through 2 or 3 times.
Yeah.
So I think that is already done. And the house was built 3 years ago. The only thing is, yes, construction is done 3 years ago, and waiting for pavement of the road for many years so far.
Wait, so you already built the house? That's
Yes,
the empty one with the door on, the brown one, right?
Yes, it's all construction done 3 years ago.
So, okay, so then okay. They want you to do a hammerhead on the open turnaround spot, right?
Yes, that is dedication issue at this time, which is case number D.
Because there's a file here. I think it's not this file, Vince, it's the other one. So it's the one that's about the council file. It's the city saying that like they messed up. They let you build the house, but then they totally forgot that it wasn't like fire accessible. So then now you have to negotiate this turnaround. It's that, yeah, okay. So Vince, like, what's up with Bureau of Engineers? Like, if you pull up this file, other file, Vince, it's very strange. It's them, the city kind of thinking out loud. Okay, so it's like called.
But that is requirement by the fire department for fire engine turnaround.
But
so,
they didn't make you do that in the beginning, right? Before.
Yes, long time ago, about 4 years ago, when we got the permit, the fire department approved for turnaround construction.
Okay, so it'll be 6D, Vince. Okay, so wait, keep going down. Oh, it's the next one. It's called Abrigo Hammerhead. Yeah, right there. Okay, so this one, let's just kind of keep scrolling to the third page. Okay, so that's the site. Keep going. This is your contact info. Okay, so there is a statement here, right here. BOE counter comment. It was not approved. Wait. County recorded for Hammerhead document application not approved by survey department. Dedication is not correct. What is being dedicated is a turnaround of 5 feet dedication, so it must be included and provided the approval from BOE and LA Department of turnaround.
So it's basically just correcting it.
Yes,
Because
it has been already corrected for 5 feet dedication. The matter of easement decoration and the fire, the hammerhead dedication is already cleared. So it is final, is your approval tonight.
but yeah, Vince, can you scroll up and to the aerial map? I want people to be able to see where this turnout is going to be. So is this, Dennis, is this looking east? Like, is this image? Oh, wait, okay. So the hammerhead.
Yeah, this is a hammerhead here.
So, but your house, where's the house on this image?
House footprint is somewhere around here.
Oh, in the center? Okay.
Somewhere near the road, so that this
the gate.
This will be serve as a driveway to the garage.
So like, where's the gate on this image? The gate next to the house that blocks the street? Like,
oh, this is the driveway and the parking garage is right here along. So if I can show you.
When I saw this, I thought that hammerhead, like there's a lookout point on Abrigo where everybody goes to take photos. It had a box truck parked there for a while. Do you remember that truck? Is that where that hammerhead's going to be?
Yes, you can see from here to nice view around downtown.
So that hammerhead's going to be the place where the truck was. That nice that grassy area.
But the purpose of this hammerhead is only for the emergency turnaround.
Yeah. Because they're building a road. I'm just so curious about this whole situation.
Well, I mean, on this one, the only thing we could think about is submitting the denial letter on it based upon what we're seeing. If that's the case, Sarah, if that's where that location's at so that they don't block it. Or you approve it and they build it, but I don't know what they're going to do. It doesn't make mention what they will do with that area.
Those parcels right there went up for sale recently, but that hammerhead, see, basically like, yeah, I mean, the owner is like giving his own property, right? Like he's absorbing the loss by this hammerhead because he wants.
Yes.
Yeah. But is the city saying that the hammerhead's like a cure-all? Like, is that like, why did they do this?
No, it's a safety issue with the fire department that it's requiring the access to the hammerhead there. And it's just for them to turn around in. And that's just a liability that the city has because they misplanned it in the original outlook.
Oh, how a fire truck could even get up the street there in the first place, like through that.
That's why they need that hammerhead. Without that, you know, if there was an accident up there, the public could sue for bad designing of the street.
Yeah. This is just all weird. Okay.
Indeed, our basic application to BOE is pavement up to here.
Mm-hmm.
So that the fire engine should turn around before the end of the pavement.
Mm-hmm.
That's why we give the dedication of this area for fire engine turnaround or emergency vehicle turnaround to this way.
Yeah.
So from this point on, there's no pavement at all.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, like last year during a rainstorm, 2 fire trucks got stuck in the mud and they almost fell off the hill, you know.
Well, on this one, I think like we ask ourselves this: is this something we want to approve or disapprove, Sarah?
Well, I mean, the thing is this: it's like there are people building houses that are sitting empty. And Dennis, I'm going to tell you, the house that you built has been sitting empty for years now.
Yes, correct.
And I think there's a sewer, like some sewer thing or something. I don't know what's going on, but I'm curious as to why they're sitting empty, but also why the road part comes after or something.
Oh, because of a pavement is the issue, and the BOE do not give us permit for pavement until we clear this hammerhead issue and the neighborhood the council's approval. And the technical part is all cleared.
It said BOE and it said LA dot. Do they talk to the fire department? Like, do they work with the fire department at all?
Yes, at this moment, they already talked and cleared. So we already got B permit as well as R permit. The only final clearance is from the Lincoln Heights Neighborhood Council's clearance. Because of the,
They basically did the design, Sarah, with the fire department, BOE, street services went in. There is I could tell because on the report, they even mentioned that this area is also in the 500 and 100-year floodplain, right? Where it's
There's never been anything built on this whole chunk here between Thomas all the way down to, where there's houses. And it's probably for a reason. But, and it's not just erosion and stuff, but yeah, that road, there's been like a public paper road for so long, way before that road was even built. It's yeah, it's that whole area is going to be opening up for development now.
the President Sarah, the fire department gate is right now here, but as soon as we have a pavement, the gate will be relocated to this position so that no one can drive to the dirt road. So the fire engine is driving here and turn around using this turnaround hammerhead and come back.
Yeah, okay.
So
all right, the house has already been built, so this item is like, no. But then we could just move on to the next thing. It's the council file for this hammerhead, which, we just write something, we should try to pick the brain of, basically these departments never visit the sites at all. It's that where they're putting the hammerhead is like flat top number 2. It's like the place where all the photographers go, people watch the sunset. It's just a shame that, if the city has to build a hammerhead, people shouldn't, it's dangerous to have houses there, right? They want to build a hammerhead at flat top for that other thing too.
So on this item, you don't want no action on it.
I want to write, it's just a letter.
Hold on, we have Benny.
Yeah, please. Excuse me, President Sarah. Indeed, the main issue now is pavement. Once you have pavement, you're always welcome to visit to the hammerhead. But this critical path to have this pavement approved by BOE.
See, for instance, like last year there was a fire and it was on Amethyst Street and it killed a dog and it burnt down a house and it happened so quick the fire department couldn't get there. And when you look at Amethyst Street, it's just a giant dirt road that's so dangerous. And it's like the fact that the city's letting, people are being allowed to build houses, but then the infrastructure is not following up at the same time, and a house can sit for years without being accessible to a fire department. It puts everybody at risk. They're dying in fire.
But indeed, no one allowed to drive this dirt road.
We have Benny. Benny's had his hand up.
Benny.
Just thinking like, it sounds like we need to digest this a little further.
Well, we
So,
don't.
like maybe even invite some people from the city.
I mean, this is something that's not, it's a time sensitive thing because it's an accelerated procedure, probably Bureau of Engineering initiated it because it's a necessity. If this is on that grassy spot on Abrigo where everybody looks at the park with the palm trees and takes downtown photos. And to me, it's like, how to, yeah.
Well, right now, our only stance on this right now is either we are going to make a denial letter,
but
well, that's what I'm saying. We're either going to make it because the necessity would take away what you're saying, or we look at public safety, approve it and move it forward. But it's either going to be a denial letter based on the grounds of, it removes public access. It may remove public access, and there may be, road concerns with it. Because BOE, even though it's been cleared by BOE, even though it's been cleared by the fire department, but that's the only motion that we have for this, or we don't take action on it.
No, so the council file, it's like the thing has to be built, but it's like that image, like, first of all, who knows what a hammerhead is? It's, it's like, oh, okay, that's a shape, right? I know that these departments don't go out to visit sites, and they probably don't talk either. I want to go to the site with a fire department guy so he can see how tight that street is.
But like
But
you
yeah,
said, I think it's time sensitive. So
it's not just yes or no. It's like basically we're saying the city can't be like making these decisions without coming to the people like in the beginning,
let's look at it from our time. What is the date of the hearing that it was expedited to?
Well, the council file just came out on the 2nd. It's expedited. It hasn't been itemized with city council what they're going to do. It probably in the next week. Cedillo introduces a motion and then 4 days later they bring it to council.
This is going to be the only time where we can take a position because it'll be on tomorrow's agenda.
It's like, if, this kind of stuff is like with Flat Top. It's like the guy bought adjoining parcels so he could do a hammerhead, like at our beautiful lookout spot, like where, it's like a liquefaction zone, it's.
So I would recommend this because it's an issue. I would send a letter of recommendation of denial. Because right now we don't have the time to call the city up, set it up with them. Or you can do one of two things, send a letter and see if they'll do it, but that's a risk because they don't have to extend it. They can if they want to.
Well, the whole thing is that, yeah, like they're not even fixing our streetlights right now, but yeah.
Then our only option would be to send a letter of denial and we're on record denying it based on those safety issues.
I don't, one of us has to go to the site with, I called up LADBS once when the guy was dumping the cement at Flat Top. He had never been there before. And then he went up there and he lost his mind at how beautiful it was. And he thought, yeah. Anyway, they've probably never been there. But
sorry that I respect your council's decision, but as a project engineer, this road was unpaved the last many years. Once you have a pavement and improve the construction based on BOE permit, everything should be safe, including the building and safety's inspection and their approval. So I think this is critical path at the moment to make your decision to get approval so that we can go ahead with pavement on the road.
It's dictating the future of that whole area there, and that it's opening it up for more houses to come because infrastructure is being built. So it's affecting people in the future and our community in the future. But there's a lot of unresolved issues. Yeah.
You want to continue it, Sarah, so that you can be able to see if you can reach out to the fire.
Well, I want to write the letter. We're just gonna
because there's only
the letter is going to be the request. So yeah, no, we'll do the letter and we'll vote on it, and then
so the letter is going to be a letter of denial based upon if they want it to be approved, then they should have the fire department BOE meet with the Lincoln Heights Neighborhood Council.
Again, I respect your decision, but this is a matter of pavement allowed by your decision or not. In my opinion, the pavement of this road and the construction of turnaround is benefit to your community.
Well,
because this makes the whole story is safe.
That's the road. Sir, you don't own the road. You know that's a substandard road to begin with, and then hasn't been used for so long, and then cars can't even drive on it, and so it's a cutting through road. So this is like an amenity, that road's not necessary. If they got rid of that road, you could still get out and go out Pruitt or whatever. That road's like excessive, and that it's ridiculous.
So that's what I mean. Like we got to pick one of those because
well, we could like accept it, we could reject it, or we could do it with with amendments, like oppose with.
Yeah, that's all. The only reason why I say
They already did it, so now they have to build it. So I would say oppose, but with amendments, or, you know, resolve. Like we demand that they meet with us when.
Okay, then, so I'll make the motion to write a denial letter with amendments.
It's not called denial letter, though. This is just a community impact statement for a council file. This isn't for the project.
Well, when you do a community impact statement, it has a denial.
It says oppose, support, or oppose with or support with amendments or something.
Okay.
Support if amended.
So you want one, so because when you use the word support with amended, you're supporting the project if they amend it. And most likely they're going to ignore the amendments.
Well, this was introduced by BOE and not a council member either. So it's kind of weird.
That's why I say if we send it in with an opposition letter with amendments, what happens is if they don't accept the amendments, even if you ask for a continuation to extend it, so that we can meet with the fire department, and what ends up happening is that our opposition letter stands because they didn't meet the amendments.
Yeah, I mean, the house on Paradise Hill, LADBS says they have to tear it down now, you know, because of the, you know, building like this. It's like the house shouldn't have been built before they built this hammerhead, you know?
Yeah. So I'll make the motion. Let me know if you want this way. The motion I want to make for the letter is to say a motion to oppose with amendments. Those amendments will include one, that we get an extension of the time before consideration. Two, that we were able to get a meeting with BOE and the fire department at the actual location with representatives. Okay, and if satisfied, then we can approve the project.
I mean, if we oppose it, we're opposed. See, because the applicant's the one who's he's giving his land to the turnaround, right?
Yeah.
So then we would be opposing him, like giving his easement or whatever for the thing. And then in that case, then the city would have to absorb the cost or something. But ideally, I mean, that road is superfluous. It's not necessary because that structure, the house he built is already at the gate at the other side. So
you can make that argument in the letter, but I mean, right now it's just to say, because no matter whether they get the land or they don't get the land from them and they use public land or a public easement down the road, the fact of the matter is they're trying to put this in place because it will meet the city standards and BOE and fire department and safety standards. So all we're simply doing is saying we will oppose this particular project if it does not meet the requirements that we ask for the amended. And let's say they say no, we're not gonna go for the amendments, then Lincoln Heights stands opposed to the project as is on the grounds that it didn't meet any of our amendments that we felt were just basic, so we can make a better decision on it.
Thank you. Then you can recommend your recommendation for amendment. Then it's fine with me.
Dennis, did you buy the other parcels there?
No, we don't.
So you just have that parcel with the house on it?
Yes, only one. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, because because this street, yeah, it's like, I guess it is necessary to go through like if people build houses up there, like two little houses, they'll have to have the street done, but I don't see why the street's necessary.
No, this is only one house case.
Okay. Yeah, we'll just do the letter.
Shall we move for the vote?
Yeah.
Okay, let me just put the motion out, and then we need a second. The motion is to approve a community impact statement opposing the project with the amendments that one, we get an extension for the hearing of the project. Two, that we're able to get appointments with BOE and the fire department at the location. And that's it. That's what we need.
Okay.
Second.
Yeah.
Fernanda Sanchez seconds, and then we just need a public, well, I don't have board comment and then public comment.
I don't see any.
Any public comments?
I
Negative.
do not see it.
All right, so then we'll just go for a roll call vote.
Sarah,
Yes,
Chenpa,
Yes.
Christopher,
Yes.
Benny,
Yes.
Nancy,
Yes.
Richard,
Simon,
and Fernanda, yes. Motion carries.
motion carries. Sorry that was so long, you guys.
Thank you, Dennis.
Thank you, Dennis.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
All right, okay. Thank you, sir.
Yes,
So-
thank you for your help.
So 6E, so this is one that now there's no hearing or anything. It's an unresolved issue. So 6E, discussion and possible action on letter to city attorney, LADBS and city planning regarding 2657, 2659 North Pasadena Avenue. This historic home, oh geez, was identified by Survey LA as being subject, what? Oh, it's being subject to demolition by neglect. There's a current abate order on the property. Fires broken out 3 times and burned down the neighboring apartments. So the presentation, I invited somebody, but I don't know if he's here. Let me see real quick. Okay, so this is the house on Pasadena Avenue that's just being destroyed. Vince, can you go to the supplementary document? I have like a little photo thing. Let me just look at it real quick here. Doobie doobie doo, doobie doobie doo.
It's 6E.
Now keep going down. Keep going down. Yeah, that one, 6F, down below it. Yeah, that one. Okay. Yeah, so it's there. If you scroll all the way down, there's a picture of it, right? It's kind of a newer picture, but the house has been destroyed since then. This was when people lived there in 2017 and then they got evicted. But this house was built in 1885 by an industrial, the guy who had a foundry, Johnson Foundry Works. Anyway, it's a site that the Survey LA said would be eligible to be on the National Register of Historic Places. A developer bought it in 2018. It's sat vacant. And then he put in applications to demolish all the structures on the property and then to build like condos or whatever. The city just like ignored his applications or something. And so he retaliated and just let the house just get trashed. And then they actually gutted the house. We think it was an inside job, but the house went on fire and it burned down the little houses next door that had people sleeping in them. And then those people became homeless. And yeah, it's horrible. So the city put an abate order on this, like, Vince, can you roll up the abate orders by the city attorney? Basically, like, if this guy doesn't pay his taxes, yes, that's it. Abate orders are serious. The city auctions your property. Yeah, they sell your property. So this abate orders, it was just reissued again in December. The city's been taking years on this. It's like, do more people, like, are people just gonna die next? Like, is it just gonna burn down the?
So this letter is basically us saying we oppose the abatement order.
We oppose, basically, it's a historic home, like the whole thing. Yeah, I could do a presentation about the history. That's what the guy was gonna do today, but we're watching like a thing of beauty and like the whole history, this symbolic, this time capsule just be totally destroyed by there are laws that protect against this that the city has. One of them, it's called scorched earth ordinance. And you get fined $10,000 and you can't build on it for 5 years. But the city they've only like enacted it once. And what, this guy's doing is like demolition by neglect. Yeah, letting it just get trashed. And it's such a special, so many shady things happen there that have been documented. So we want the city to do this. Basically, it's been going on for so long, like, this guy already burnt down the neighbor's house as being so neglectful. Put the abate order on it. Take the property, don't sell it to a developer, but, let the people try to save it, the historic preservation stuff. Because the city had already done all this research before with these historic research or historic housing surveys they did. They basically glorified this house. It was like this rare example of something that needs to be preserved. And all of a sudden now they're letting it just get, this guy just break the law. I think that this person should, be sued by the city, and the property should be handed over to the community as a historic property.
We know they won't do that.
Well, they already had their eyes on that lot, but
so on this one, just so we can push this one forward, because what I'm trying to listen to is that you're saying that you want them to prosecute the owner of it.
it's that we have to protect the health, the health, safety, and welfare of the people. This thing already hurt people because it burnt down. An abate order means that the guy's supposed to cure the problems, right? He's supposed to, basically, it's been two years he's had this abate order, and he hasn't even got, he's just been getting worse and worse. What their city's probably hoping is that, because he's back on his taxes, and then they're gonna get the property or whatever. But we don't want to sit, it's like watching a car crash in slow motion. Like, we have done so much research on this property. The Conservancy told us that, like, they're aware that this guy's doing all this stuff, and LADBS. It's like they're not whatever.
There's nothing they can do to him, and that's why the abatement order goes in. That's the only legal process where
city attorney,
they can take it. So I think what I'm hearing is that we approve this letter with a recommendation that they possibly work with a community organization. Which the problem with this is that the legal process is it doesn't go that way. It goes straight to auction. Once the abatement order goes in,
taxes now. But
unless, and this is something to think about, unless someone reaches out to the owner and basically says, look, we're tired, you're tired of it, allow the community to pay the taxes off. That way he gets off the city's.
This guy already committed a felony, dude. That place went up in flames 3 times, and it burnt down like 3 homes next door with families sleeping in them.
So
that property went on for sale, like that. This property he bought for $700,000 in 2017. Like, that's he should be in jail for what he's doing. It's like horrible. And he has laws about this, and they're not enforcing it.
I'm saying, like, on this letter, so we can get this passed, because I know there's a lot of things that we're not going to be able to tap into, and I think our only stance on it is to say, speed it through, use the abatement, and then unfortunately it goes into public auction, right? It's gonna, and I think that's all we can do on this issue is a letter of support for the abatement. And then if we want to put in not amendment, but suggestions, even though I don't think they're gonna listen.
No, I mean, this is it. It's like,
I agree. We should move this to a vote.
It needs, basically, there are all these people who, if we preserve it as a historic place, they can still tear it down, but that's going to be the next action. So it's the duty of the community to preserve its historic cultural assets. So anyway, yeah, we'll do the letter, whatever. Everybody's tired. Okay. And then the next item, oh wait, we have to vote on it.
No, we have to do the letter. So I make a motion to approve the letter in support of the abatement for the removal of the property with added suggestions to it, which would be somewhere in the neighborhood that it should go to the public. The history should be preserved. And we can add like a few points onto it just to keep the letter in line of what we're saying.
It's like we've been called Heritage Square. It's like, it's just all weird, but yeah, so we'll do that.
We need a second.
Second.
Fernie seconds, and then board member comment. I don't see any board members with their hands up, or committee members, I should say, sorry.
All right, any public comment? Such a hot topic, this house.
I don't see any.
Other pictures.
We don't have no public comment.
Okay, then we'll take.
I think Mr. Adams wanted to say something, if I'm not mistaken. I heard his mic come off.
Yeah, what is do we know what the current taxes are on this house, and what do we know as far as the current property value as the state as it is?
Well, the whole thing is, I'll just make it quick. It's all about, it's because of the CDO, right? Yeah, the CDO and the opportunity zones. Basically, they planned this out like 10 years ago or longer. When they did the HPOZ, they intentionally avoided the actual historic areas. So Pasadena Ave was like the boulevard of Lincoln Heights, and it has these houses. Basically, this guy got the property to do the dirty deed, you know, and then he didn't hire a lobbyist, and his thing's just been sitting there. I think because the city wants the property. I found there's a couple council files. They were when they were doing the metro, they were trying to get this site. So.
And I don't think the taxes on it are that much because he hasn't owned it for that long.
I think that would be a good idea though, to go to him and see about paying the taxes, so that way it's rid.
That's, he's like, yeah, you wouldn't pay, basically if you're squatting, you pay the taxes, but you hope they don't find out, because then you get the thing.
No,
the guy's a business, he's like a business tycoon in Glendale or something. But in any case, there's something going on. Just basically, this person's been doing something. It's going unpunished for so long that it's just kind of very curious to me. Anyway, it's.
Let's let Fernie go for the vote.
Sarah?
Yes.
Chente?
Yes.
Christopher?
Yes.
Benny?
Yes.
Nancy?
Yes.
Richard?
Simon.
Fernanda? Yes. It's unanimous, motion carries.
Motion carries. Yay. And we have one more. I just want to show you. Yeah, you guys know the house, right?
Yeah.
All the windows are smashed out. It's horrible. Okay, so the last one. Okay, so this
Yeah, I
one.
heard about that house on Facebook, actually. There was like a before and after post.
Yeah, I'll show you. This was the final item, but this is like the emotional part, I guess. So this, I looked at the, what is it? So he bought the property and he immediately filed for demolition permits for the Martitas restaurant and the home. But the city planning's kind of, or LADBS is kind of confused about addresses. So they consider the whole property just to be this like restaurant. They don't really consider, they don't see the house, right? So they confuse the addresses. And anyway, so this guy got all these demolition permits in 2018, and they're still kind of like waiting approval, because you have to get all these things done. So I saw that, and yeah, one of them was like demolition of SFD, and then you realize like that's that big house. Like,
so item 6F is the same property we just seen, right?
let me show you I just want to show you these photos real quick, and then that'll be it. So we know, can you go to the supporting documents? So this house was built by a guy who had a foundry on Main Street. And in 1910, on Christmas Eve, on Christmas Day, it was bombed by dynamite. There were all these founders that bombed by yeah, dynamite bombers. And then it turned out to be the same guys, the McNamara brothers that bombed the LA Times building 2 months earlier. It was these steel striker guys. But that was like one of the first cases of like domestic terrorism in history, like in the history of the, I guess, like bombing campaigns at that time. Like that was one of the big things that happened.
Sarah, those pictures are inside the
It's
support.
okay, so it's on Stephen's thesis. Here, scroll down a little. It's
That's all that it-
called, it has nothing on the picture. Scroll up. It's just like a thesis. Okay, there it is. It says item 6E. Yeah. No. Then the one above it. Yeah. Okay, so scroll all the way down to the bottom of the whole thesis. So Stephen Lamson, he's a local historian, somebody I knew, and we were just watching the house over the past couple of years, taking photos. So he did a thesis about the house. Okay, so here. So like in a period, like the house was just destroyed in a period of like 2 years, but okay, stop. The house is just totally fucked up. But what happened was when last year when the Black Lives Matter, like when the unrest happened, that was the day they drove a truck up, like actually in the middle of the night, like a flatbed. It was an inside job. And these guys gutted the house of all the architectural interior, like all the banisters and the metalwork. And then they spray painted fake graffiti in there, which is in the photos, to make it look like we did it, like our community did it to ourselves. And so Stephen took, the before and after pictures because he was going in and out of there. And so that owner actually, he had his guys do that. Yeah, it's pretty horrible. But the family that lived there in 2017, when it sold, they sent me the before and after pictures of their family, like in the living room, and just to see that like a place full of like life and a home can just be like, yeah, whatever. It's why communities, like, we have like an HPOZ, it's like all this stuff. It's like, this is one of like the oldest houses in Lincoln Heights, like one of the most, stately looking fine examples of its time. And then they're letting it get destroyed and we're watching it get destroyed. And but then a block away, they have Heritage Square where they're fixing the same damn house that they moved from another neighborhood. It's like, why is this one just getting burned up before our eyes? So we have to take the responsibility and do the preservation thing or something.
Let me ask a question on this one. This house was burnt down already, or it still stands?
No, it's not burnt down. There was somebody set a fire inside, so it took out part of the roof, and then another little fire. The fire department cut out like part of the wall to access it, and then the barn went on fire on the last one, and that was a redwood barn that was like 100 years old, and it incinerated the apartments next door. But
because I'm just trying to figure out, like, with this, the letter that we want to send for this is to save it, that we recommend that the house should be preserved under the HPOZ rules.
no, the HPOZ is like meaningless. I work with them.
Well, I mean, however we want to write it, we want it, historically preserved.
It will be historically preserved because of the history of the bombing thing and all that.
Well, that's what I mean. It's anything that's attached to it. When we say historically preserved, it's anything since the existence of the house, whatever's tied to the address or.
Yeah, right. Like
this.
George Washington
So,
up there, yeah.
So if I say we want a letter, well, this is what I'm trying to figure out. We want a letter. Who would this be going to?
Well, this item that we're talking about now is just about, he's got an application for demolition in the pipeline.
Okay.
So we're writing a letter. Basically, it will be attached to the city planning case file. Or I mean, it's not, it's to the
so what we're doing is just writing a letter in opposition to the demolition, and our reasoning is because of its historical significance in our community?
Yeah, well, it's basically telling LADBS, you know, stop taking bribes from people to like turn the other, you know, to act, yeah, to ignore things. No, I know, because they, and they get paid by people.
So if I make a motion with that letter, that would be good. Make a motion for a letter denying or
I'll
opposing.
invite like Garcetti to the damn property, you know, like what, like, it's like you're seeing this thing, it's like so absurd and insane.
Well, I mean, and I think that you should CC it to even the HPOZ and any
No,
historical.
I already talked to like,
No, I know, but this is to put them on notice that we're taking this position in the letter, and that the reasons why we're writing this letter is specifically what you're talking about, the abandonment.
HPOZ doesn't protect interiors, it's just for the outside.
No, I know, but it's what we're doing is protecting the fact that, and making people notify on record that the agencies and the departments and the rules and regulations that are supposed to be taking care of it
Mhm.
are right now relaxed or negligent of taking care of it, and that this is the reasons why we're saying oppose the demolition permit and work on the preservation of it. That's
What
what
is it? Does Ed Reyes still live around here?
I don't know if he does.
Because he designed our HPOZ and he did a couple little variations on it, but he is the one that made all the boundaries on it. Yeah, and the Conservancy, LA Conservancy has the Avenue 34 developer on it. Or, you know what I mean? It's developers, but this is a legal thing. You know, it's like the only time they employed that scorched earth ordinance was against the Orsini guy, because he tore down the last house on Bunker Hill with no permits, and that was they slammed him, and they've been afraid to do it since because they're afraid of getting sued. But I want them to do that. I want them to use their laws.
That case, that's why they don't use it no more. They got sued, and that case set precedent. Yeah, they never dissolved. That's why the city attorney won't prosecute or move forward onto it, because of the case that set precedent, which was the Orsini. But even that one was done purposefully because it was cheaper to burn it down than it was to, you know, move it or anything. It was only $10,000. It was going to cost them over $100,000 to move, and then another $300,000-$400,000 to find a lot to put it on.
Yeah.
So it set precedent on it. But I think if we wrote the letter in that aspect and we wrote it well, that it would send a clear message. And that's why I want to include the agencies, whether they're effective or not. But it's the lack of them enforcing the already ordinances that are on the record to protect and preserve the historical preservation of our homes that have significant history, you know, that sometimes may define.
That's romantic, but you know, this is like, this kind of homes in Lincoln Heights are like, you know, kind of you know, they're from the Midwest, all that stuff. Like this guy was kind of, he moved to, you know, to a mansion in the 30s and cut out. But no, my thing is this: people almost died from the fire that could be seen from miles away, and their houses and roofs got burnt off right there next to Boys and Girls Club. It's Boys and Girls Club, the houses that got burnt down, and then this place. Those people just disappeared. I don't know where they went, and the property sold through Christie's or something. But
well, you can add that into the letter. I mean, that's not, you don't have to.
It's because of the city's neglect that people almost died. Like they almost killed people in our community because they're not doing their job.
I wonder if there'd be grounds for like a civil action.
That's what needs to be done. They need to either sue, like the victims could sue the city, but I feel that like, this is the kind of stuff that's like real, like something's ignored for so long and it ignites like a senior housing complex or something.
I wonder if the council, if the council has any way of maybe pursuing litigation against the city itself.
Poor people in, you know, those were seniors in those back houses next to Boys and Girls Club. Boys and Girls Club was emailing me worried about this damn house killing people before that even happened. And like, we're just watching this thing happen, fire after fire. Those people, yeah, are homeless during the pandemic, you know? That's not okay with me.
No,
And
and it would be hard to litigate, at least from the public. One, the city council, neighborhood council could not take part in it because we're both agencies of the city, right?
Mhm.
Apparently. What can happen too is that you highlight the problems. Most people don't understand how important a letter is. So our letter would be going in opposition of approving the destruction of this home, right? Based on whatever we talked about right now. It's historical, it's danger to the community, and why we want it preserved, right? Now that letter can be used in litigation. For example, if the Boys and Girls Club had burnt down and this letter was in, then a lawyer would be able to grab that on grounds that an elected agency put out a red flag alert on the property, and then the city neglected not to do that. And we would have had to have notified all departments, including city attorney and including the attorney general of the state, to hold them accountable on these documents. That's why these letters, when they're written, they have to address all those things that are legal points. So once, like, for example, this letter is going to address that. That's the furthest we can go as the council, but we can add things in there to say, you know, this should also be maybe refurbished back to original, and then also be made a community center, a community place.
my thing is, it has to stay where it is because of the history. Basically, the houses, some of the houses at Heritage Square are from Lincoln Heights. And they were moved in the 70s because they wanted to build apartment buildings for, you know, for USC General Hospital, you know? So they took the old house that was beautiful and they moved it to Heritage Square where it sits in a museum empty. Lincoln Heights is a museum. So it's like, why, basically, yeah, Heritage Square is our neighborhood too. It's like that Heritage Square is a part of the problem. It's like, it's yeah, they needed Heritage Square because the city would do stuff like this and then they'd just put it on a truck and bring it to Heritage Square so they could build a thing.
In the letter, we should put that the property shall remain on its original grounds for historical purposes. Most of those other buildings on Heritage Squares, when they were moved because they had sold the property and they were okay to demolish. They had passed a lot of the historical preservation illegally, and they were doomed to be torn down. And the only way to create Heritage Square was to actually move them to preserve the buildings.
Well, the one that they got, the Knudsen one, Heritage Square it was on Johnston and Vallejo. That's where the house was. They put it at Heritage Square and they renamed the house after a rich lady from Beverly Hills. And then they, yeah, whatever. They don't even talk about that.
No, they don't.
It's from the neighborhood, and that Heritage Square is actually Lincoln Heights. But
so if I made that motion right now, would that satisfy what you're trying to do with this project?
well, this is not this is a plague across our community because like the 7-Eleven on Main Street with all the old houses behind it that are chained up, they were identified as a historic district by Survey LA. But yeah, now they're all chained up, and basically the owner, who you probably know who it is, they're trying to relocate our houses that are historic to South Pasadena.
No, and that's, but see, like on this one, like we know that's happening citywide. Now we can put that in the letter, like this is going on other projects within ours. But this particular letter, like when we write it, or is there another approach you want to take it on? Because the only thing we can do right now, the way it's written in the agenda, is to approve a letter. That letter opposing the permit to demolish the property.
Mhm.
You can put the point that one, we want it there because of its historical, and then you can list some of the things that Samson put on his report.
Mhm.
Two, we don't want the property to move its location because again, it's historical. And three, there's a history of community groups, community members reporting the danger of it being abandoned, it catching fire and possibly hurting some of the community members, like the Boys and Girls Club, and to emphasize that this is an ongoing issue within our community with our historical properties
Yeah.
that continue to be neglected and bypassed by ordinances and laws that are put there to protect and are never enforced within our community. I mean, that's what I'm hearing in those points, that letter would be.
This guy's trying to build like a 4-story tall thing with affordable housing. It's like, you're just doing it for the tax break, because guess what? You came here to buy this house because you think this is the ghetto, and you just let it sit wide open with the doors all wide open, empty for years, because you want it to get destroyed naturally instead of going through a demolition process. And then you're incentivized, like then the city's like, okay, great, now you get to build your affordable housing condos. It's like, no, that's not how it works. You don't get the reward. Like why would you don't have the qualities, why would you want somebody who does stuff like this to build new buildings? Because guess what? They probably are criminals in that element too. And it's not okay. Yeah, it's horrible.
So I'll make the motion for the letter to be opposing the demolition. 1, to make the point that it remain on the property that it is. 2, that now I'm almost gonna forget. 2, that the significance of the history of the building. 3, a brief paragraph on community and organizations that have been affected negatively by it, and the dangers that it the dangerous effects that it may have on some community members. And also number 4 was the neglect of enforcing city, county, and state regulation on historical properties and preservation that are not being enforced. And along those guidelines, we can just write into them on anything, a paragraph, just so that the letter comes out directly to them.
This property got upzoned, and then it's like they buy it and then they can tear it down and then build a high rise. That's what the CDO's for, right? And it's totally messed up.
There's a lot of fishy stuff in the city. But
I mean, this
motion.
property should be eminent domain. It's all, they just need to take it from the guy. Like, it's not it's like, yeah.
Our elected officials will not do that. There's a lot of things that they can
That's
do.
funny. They took them from a lot of people in our community.
My family got their, I tell people my family got their land taken from them through eminent domain, and
I should go through a public trial with our community. I should have invited it to the meeting, but he already knows that people are mad, and he still doesn't fix the thing. Yeah, I don't know.
We need to get a second on the motion.
Yeah.
Second.
And then board member comment, and then public comment.
Don't see any.
Yeah, maybe just,
Tony?
yeah, maybe just to include that the interior be protected too, because if the HPOZ only protects the exterior, we should specifically mention the interior be preserved too, because I honestly, I hadn't seen the inside till today, and it looks really nice.
That's what it was till they destroyed it. Last year, they took out, Vince, if you scroll, they took out the banisters, the stained glass windows, everything. Yeah, they destroyed it. All the spindles, spiral staircase, the barn got burned. Yeah, it felt horrible. I don't know. Yeah. It's weird because it's like this is a rich man's house. This is like a guy who's part of the problem. It's like one of Griffin's friends, like they lived upstream from their toxic factory in Lincoln Heights and were, politically connected. Oh, this guy built the Oddfellows building next to CVS too. But so this house kind of represents something that actually rightfully belongs to our community, just like the jail. It's like this, it's a house that maybe the only way now that we can have it is by squatting in it, but I don't like to see whatever, some other guy come in and tear it down and build something worse.
Ernie? I don't see any
All right.
comment. We had to open it up to public comment, but is there anybody in the public that wishes to make a comment?
I don't see any. All right, I'll take it for a vote. Sarah,
Yes.
Vincent,
Yes.
Benny,
Yes.
Christopher,
Yes.
Nancy,
Yes.
Richard,
Simon.
and Fernanda. Yes, it's unanimous. Motion carries.
Woohoo!
And if anybody wants to go explore the site with me, they can. What's that? Oh, future agenda items. Sorry, this is such a long meeting. Future agenda items. We have one about the radio tower. We have to do a CIS, a community impact statement. But does anybody have any like ideas?
I'm working on some through the sustainability committee, some on the LA River, and also Paseo del Rio. So I'll make sure that we submit some through. And just to give you like a brief, like Paseo del Rio, one of the projects is the 100 acres. And just a small outline. They only picked 4 communities to represent Paseo del Rio, even though it's a public park and it's everybody's park. So basically what I'm asking for is that Lincoln Heights be included in the advisory committee council. So we might need people appointed. I'm interested in joining it, but we'll see how many people we can appoint to it. And the other issue is on the river. Well, there's a whole lot of issues on the river right now that affect us downstream from Elysian Valley. So I'm hoping to bring all that up. And if anybody's interested in listening to him, join the public can join the sustainability committee, but board members cannot participate in it, but you can listen to our meeting.
Ah, yeah, that river thing's real tricky. Or, make it quick, but I was going down, just biking slow down Avenue 19, just looking around. And took pictures of the jail. And then, yeah, there was a huge fire last week under the freeway, giant. And yeah, so this guy, his house burnt down under the freeway, but it was lit by somebody else. But most of that trash down there is not like unhoused people's stuff. It's being dumped. And when you're on Avenue 19, it's so messed up, dude. It's basically like all these people bought the properties. They're not, they haven't been there for years. There's just shit everywhere, like dead trees falling over, and everything's busted and abandoned. And that's just how the city likes it. And then it's just in Lincoln Heights. Actually, the river is not, not ours. The bike path is not ours. It's yeah, it's just a joke. It's like you see all the people on the fancy bikes zipping around. It's like, where are they the ones fighting for the river? But the eggs are still broken at the roundabout up there at San Fernando. Confluence Plaza Park never got repaired. And it's just insane on Avenue 19. It's a symbol of like, yeah, we've been kind of alienated from half of our own community west of the 5. Like we now think that that's like industrial zone of like, but that's Lincoln Heights. It's our neighbor. It used to have houses over there. It's our freaking neighborhood, and that's our jail, and we want it back. And we need city services. The trash guys are just a block away, yet they can't go to Avenue 19 to clean all the stuff getting dumped. Like that's not an accident. That's on purpose, and it's super freaking dangerous, dude. There's like,
Sarah, we got to be careful what we're saying, just because it's only for future agenda items, and
well,
we ain't got too many nice people that like what we do.
it's that like the city spent all this money making like laser cut aluminum like decorative metal things for the bridge right there with these, you know, it's like they're all just destroyed just because they're not made to last. They were like visual ads. Yeah, we need to, that's really serious stuff happening over there, and it's really out of this world. And it's
But
just like
I
this
think
house
that-
burning down, and it's like we cannot like tolerate that shit. Like,
No, and I encourage our fellow committee members, like, look for things in the community that you guys think we should be bringing up on land use. It doesn't necessarily have to be the council files. Land use issues deal with, you know, water, you know, landslides that are not being taken care of, or you might see city projects you disagree with, but really anything in the community. So that's what this item, you know, we can bring up the items and you can send them to any one of the board members so we can put them on. But also too, if you can get people to do presentations, that's also good too, because I plan to bring some with, you know, water, but those will probably be mostly in the sustainability, but I'll bring some up too into planning and land use.
yeah, you know, some of these departments are kind of fun. Like, I do remember calling up a Bureau of Engineering guy. So we have an issue, we have 25 streetlights out, and our job as the council is that we're supposed to monitor city services. Like, I don't even think we're supposed to go through our councilmen.
Sarah, just to know, we can get in trouble because these items are going to be on the general board agenda.
Well,
we
people
can't-
could
Yeah.
die in car accidents right now.
Right.
So, yeah. Yeah, okay. So I guess we won't talk about things that are important. All right, so I don't want to talk anymore. Let's call this meeting.
Well, is there anybody else that need an agenda item? I didn't see anybody's hand up. though.
You guys don't have any agenda items. Planning and land use.
There's no hands up, and I didn't see any in the public.
Oh, strange. Okay. Word. Yeah, so if anybody has any ideas for planning and land use, you just talk about it.
And then our item 8 is just non-agenda our second call for non-agenda public comment.
Well, I had a question. As far as the Sarah, you mentioned previously that right there on Broadway, right below the Little Flower, they had a proposition for a community garden. Could we go ahead and start looking for new spaces where you could do the same thing throughout?
Yeah, that was like part of a weird shady initiative with like the river development money that I found out. But okay, so there's a program, what is it called? So it's like if somebody has land and whatever, and you want to use it for plants or food, and they let you use it, they get a tax break for like 5 years. But Vince, is it through city planning that you do this program, or what was it?
Yeah, it's city planning and the city council.
So it opens, and like signing up for it starts in October, I think, once a year. So yeah, so you get the land, you get to use the land for agricultural purposes for 5 years, and then they get like a tax break of so many $1,000s a year. And that seems like a kind of cool thing, right? There's another thing called like, it's like some pop-up park thing where if you have city-owned lots in your neighborhood that aren't being used, you can talk to the city and ask them if they'll let you do this program where you team up with a nonprofit who designs like park playgrounds, and then they turn that city-owned property into a public park for like 1 year. But it's kind of like a weird kind of thing. I don't know. I've identified all the city-owned properties, and the thing is, you have to ask the city if you can do it. So that's the hoop. And then that's, yeah, if we want a community garden,
I would say that would be something worthwhile, at least in the community aspect. You know, it'll start removing some of our dependence on corporate entities, the same corporations that are coming into the community. You know.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, we got so many community, like people have their own gardens. Yeah, I don't know. Water's an issue too, but yeah, it's a
And
weird thing because
just on those programs, Adam, one of the problem is like Sarah was saying, they're not even semi-permanent or like 10 years, 20-year plans. They're very short because they usually develop on those lands. And
yeah,
that's why sometimes we got to look for something that's a little bit more sustainable for the community, right? And that's why sometimes I advocate for people to learn how to get their own nonprofits to acquire land
mhm,
so that the public can be able to then go out for grants. For example, say like you went out and had a piece of empty land and you needed seed money. So the council can give you what they call an MPG, a neighborhood purpose grant,
seed money.
which can go out and cultivate the ground, buy seeds, do outreach with it. And even though 5,000 isn't a whole lot of money, sometimes it's really good start off money. So, you know, we're hoping to create some of those and hoping that people, you know, get excited with it. But
Yeah,
still a
Is
little
that is that something that's only available on public land? What if, say, property owners in Lincoln Heights that have large enough, say, backyards or front yards that are willing to go ahead and
oh yeah,
utilize that?
that can be public or private land. Yeah, a nonprofit is its own entity. It has nothing to do with the council. It would be able to go and do whatever it want, cut any agreement it want to meet its goals.
Would there
yeah.
be any conflict of interest with anybody on, like, say, us on the PLUC, going ahead and participating in these?
In your case, because you're not like you're a stakeholder, not a board, an elected board member. They're two different. You wouldn't have any of the conflicts we do.
Okay.
Mm. Yeah, the pocket park stuff's tough because it's kind of like the Cornfield State Park thing. It's like propaganda. Like if you did a park on a city lot and it's toxic, you're like it's like normalizing that it's toxic, you know?
Yeah.
Like, making it saying like, oh, it's okay that your kids play here and we're fine with it. It's like, dude, we're not fine with it. Like we want our, you know, natural, we want our hills. Yeah, I like the park thing's cool.
Yeah,
And
and you know, if anybody wants to talk more about it, we could talk. I want to see, because I know there's a lot of people that have been on this meeting and we got a lot to talk about, but we got a lot done today. But if they want to stay for a little while, we can talk a little bit about those issues so that we can let the people that need to go. Because I think we've conducted all our business right now. So if anybody wants to stay and just have a chat afterwards, you'll be more than welcome to.
kind of like just brainstorming, but
Yeah.
yeah,
But
yeah.
with that, I'll say this because I know people are waiting for this. I want to make a motion to adjourn.
Mhm.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All
Right.
those opposed? Let the record show that we had no oppositions and our meeting officially ended at 8:55. Thank you all board members and committee members for attending and participating. And anybody that wishes to stay at the end can, if they want to have a dialogue with Sarah, any of us, or any questions.
I'll talk.